What are the primary challenges a Scrum Master faces when working with multiple teams? There's a few, isn't there? And some of them are obvious. How can you be in two places at once? But actually, they're relatively easy to get around. I often had this, and I've been asked this many times. I'm a Scrum Master of 2-3 teams. How do I turn up at the stand-up at the same time every day at all places? If you need to, put them at different times. So I don't know, one at 9 o'clock, one at 9:30, and one at 10 o'clock. If you really have to be in all three of the daily scrums, that seems sensible. That is not beyond the ken of man to sort your calendar out. So that one doesn't concern me. Okay, but that is the common one. It gets a bit more complicated. We have got a team and they all plan on the same cadence. So I've got two teams planning in the same room. Okay. Les has a really nice structure. It has kept the split between planning 1 and planning 2. What are we going to do and how are we going to do it? Sprint planning 1 is what are we going to do? Very much like we talk about in the Scrum Guide today, working out what's important, why it's important. Do that with your teams. Okay? And then they will be aware where they need to interact with the other teams and where they don't. And then in planning part 2, where they're talking about how we solve these problems, they know which bits they need to talk to the other teams and which bits they don't. Do you need to be in that bit as a Scrum Master? Probably not. You want to be in that first bit, ensuring it's running well, that they're aware of their capacities, that they're thinking about these things, and you can flip between the two teams in planning 2 as it makes sense. So that whole how do I be in two places at one is a problem. Please don't let you think that I disregard it. But it's one that's actually quite easily solved with a bit of thinking, a bit of out-of-the-box thinking maybe, but we have good patterns out there already. The issues are really going to come not in helping teams understand Scrum, because I need to run a training course for 2 teams. Well, I could run one training course for 2 teams and job done. We're talking about half a dozen people in each. You're great, don't worry, you know your stuff. Build the course, invite both teams in, field questions that's in their context. You work with them, you know these people, you'll be fine. The problem's going to come when you start working at the organisational level. Because Team A over there are struggling with a different thing to Team B, and both of them need attention. You're going to have to now prioritise which team's problem is more important. And that's hard. Not because you can't sit there and objectively work it out and run it through, but because emotionally you care. You care that these people are struggling. You care that they can't do the job that they want to do. You care that the organisation isn't responding quickly enough to allow them to do a great job. And those emotions are going to cloud the issue. Which one do you go to? That's hard. And it's going to be constant. You're going to be constantly juggling these things. How do you explain to Team A that you didn't work on their thing because you were helping Team B? Because Team A are in pain here. They're hurting. And you've just said, I know you're in pain, but they're in more pain. Right? That's a necessity in some industries. If you go into accident emergency, there's a triage nurse working out who's more important because there's limited resources. You're now the limited resource and the triage. You're the person going out into the organisation, teeing up conversations with sponsors, with stakeholders, with leaders, okay, with other teams maybe. And there's only so much of you. You can either, as I'm sure some of you have done, work a few extra hours each day. That takes its toll. Or you can pick a favourite team. I wouldn't recommend that. But very often what actually happens is you do a less than stellar job for both teams because you've got this context switch and because you've got the very real difficulties of choosing which things to work on. And you're going to get it wrong. You're going to prioritise incorrectly because you've got incomplete information. Not always, but sometimes. And now that's going to create a cascade and you're going to have to deal with the fact that you've upset your teams, the fact that you've upset the stakeholder who's really upset you haven't focused on the team but you didn't know that stakeholder existed. Whatever the thing is that crept up that you didn't know about is going to creep up. And you're going to become pulled. You're going to start context switching on a great rate of knots. And as you do that, your effectiveness is going to come down and down and down. The reality is, in most organisations today, as a Scrum Master, you've got to work on more than one team. It's very rare that a come across places where it's one Scrum Master to one team. What you have to do is manage that and manage those expectations. Get in early, work with the teams, make sure they know who each other are, make sure they know each other's pains so that they can help you prioritise correctly, and they can empathise with you when you're making difficult calls, when you're doing things that may not be helping them but is helping those others. Because familiarity, relationships really will make your life better if those teams know each other. If they know you, they're going to care about you, they're going to help you. And the best thing I can recommend when you're in this state is work on those relationships. Help the teams understand each other as well as you, and in that, they're going to help you move forwards. If you've got to this point in the video, I hope you've enjoyed it. If so, a like would be appreciated. If you want to hear more from me, more answers to questions that maybe you've got in the Agile world, please subscribe to the channel. And if you've got a question that you really want answered, drop it in the comments. I promise we'll get around to it. Thank you.